Hello, everyone. Good morning, afternoon, wherever you're tuning in from. Let us know where you're joining from. I am in Austin. John is in Dublin. So we're all around the world today, which is really exciting. And excited to have a chat with John today about Google Tags Getaway. So for advertisers, for social media marketing teams, if you are running Google Ads campaigns and maybe see some gaps in your data, or you're trying to explain to your client maybe some of these gaps in your data, cookies, different browser restrictions, can limit kind of this user journey and some of this data. So we're going to walk through today how GTG can help kind of close those gaps, really increase trust with your clients, and just give you a better measurement in your ad campaign. So really excited to talk with you, John. Without further ado, I will pass it off to you.
Lovely. Thank you very much, Aniston. So let me introduce myself. My name is John Doyle. I'm based out of our Dublin office here for Google, and I'm the measurement product lead here for EMEA. So I partner with agencies and their clients to help them understand data strengths on how they can enrich their first party data. And we'll go through it in detail today. So we'll look at it. It's roughly going to be 45 minutes to an hour, depending on questions and so on as we run through. So we'll look at how do we prove your value. We'll introduce data strengths. We'll do a deep dive into Google Tag Gateway, and we'll have a bonus round on enhanced conversions for leads. But majority of today's session is going to focus on Google Tag Gateway, and we'll hold some time at the end for any questions. Aniston, if you want to jump in at any point and ask questions as we go, please do. So with that, we want to look at how do we prove your value. So we understand the measurement landscape and the agency's role is constantly evolving. It's constantly changing and it's getting more complex day by day. Why is that happening? Well, there's a host of things happening around us, but some of the first things that we actually see are that providing ROI on ad spend is top of mind for CMOs. 84% of CMOs make their budget decision making based on the ROI that they see in their systems. However, when we talk to practitioners that are running these campaigns or doing these analysis, only 28% of these marketeers actually believe they have the accuracy or technical capability to measure ROI correctly. And this creates a huge measurement capability gap. And what we want to look at is how do we partner with agencies and their clients to help close the gap on that. What we've seen over the last year is 61% of clients have left agencies in 2025, citing a dissatisfaction in the value that they were receiving, predominantly based around ROI. So we really want to understand, why is that happening? What is actually in our control and what is out of our control? Where can we start taking immediate steps? So things like privacy headwinds, cookie loss, signal loss, these are all amounting to the issues where we're creating loss in first party data. We're not having a complete customer profile view. So if we look at it from an agency perspective, the kind of building blocks or pillars on how we would do this in a staged approach, future-proofing measurement would be one that is probably fundamental to all of our strategies, is having measurement as the bedrock. Then start leaning in and start using AI solutions, but then also proving the value in terms of using media effectiveness. The trifecta of these three together will help us to actually close the gap and prove the value of all of the efforts. If I turn that language into Google terminology, and just to make it a little bit relatable, is from Google, you'll hear data strengths, which I'm going to talk about today, which is foundations of measurement, the Gemini advantage, which is going to be pertaining to AI solutions, and then media effectiveness is nearly one for one with the external and the Google language as well. And today, as I mentioned, we're going to run through data strengths. So what is data strengths and why essentially does it matter? Why should you care about it? Data foundations are not net new to Google or agencies. You've all been working with these solutions over the last number of years. We may have called them foundational measurement, we may have called them privacy preserving solutions, and so on, all different capacities. But now it's going to be living under the data strengths umbrella. And this is really the toolkit that we're going to be able to choose from to suit a client's particular challenge or need at a time. So we've got enhanced conversions for web, enhanced conversions for lead, consent mode, Google Tag Gateway, server-side GTM, Google Analytics. These are all first-party focused solutions. When we look at it in terms of like stages, what we want to achieve, we start on the left with the foundation or the bedrock, which is data strengths. And really, this is about preserving as much first party data as possible. You've got consent mode. A lot of clients would have already adopted this, so there's a high adoption rate on consent mode. You have things like enhanced conversions, both for the web and the offline environment. Google Analytics for all analytical purposes, proving the value of campaigns and having it as a source of truth to understand everything that's happening with the media investments. You have Google Tag Gateway, which we'll focus on today, and Customer Match. Provided that we plug in this and get as much first party data as possible, that is the fuel that's going to help AI perform to the best capability as possible. So the more information we can provide PMax, value-based bidding, or AI Max, the more informed decisions it can make. If we don't understand the full consumer journey of the behaviors, the things that they're doing on the website, we can't make an informed decision on who we should invest the next piece of Google media on, and we won't understand the full ROI.
Just to
Once we do,
Oh, sorry.
please understand. Yeah, please.
Just to ask, in this kind of data strength, for maybe those who don't know, could you maybe just like quickly walk through the consent mode, the enhanced conversions, like just a quick blurb for those who might not know?
Yeah, for sure. For consent mode specifically, this has been around for quite a long time as a solution, and generally it's born out of making sure we capture consent, but it also relates back to general GDPR guidelines in every region possible. So consent mode is about making sure that we capture explicit consent when people want to be tracked or not tracked. So that then that flows down into Google Analytics, Google Ads, SA360. So the Google products know, can we actually collect information on this user or can we not? And if
Yeah.
we don't have that information, we don't capture it.
Yeah.
Enhanced conversions, then that's really about making sure that we have appended values to either the online or offline environment. We'll go into it in a little bit, but these are extra signals that create more durable measurement. So that would be from a web component and also an offline component where I'll show some examples later on as well. Google Analytics I touched on, that would be kind of acting as your source of truth to track everything from site behavior, campaign behavior, how ads are affecting your media and so on. Google Tag Gateway, which we'll cover in just a moment, is all about making sure that we load data in a first party instance. And Customer Match then is using your offline data sources to upload to have audiences, to have better first party audience capability for either positive or negative targeting on campaigns, depending on what strategy you're applying, essentially.
Awesome. Thank you.
No worries. And then just the final pillar here. Once we do all of these elements, they don't have to be sequential in nature, but provided that we take off some of the minimal viable standards, this will create better opportunities across the full funnel. We'll see better performance and more opportunities to expand into demand gen, video view, video reach campaigns as well. We can diversify across the entire funnel and look at how performance is going on YouTube and demand gen campaigns in tandem to our search campaigns that are long-standing as well. So if I'm to leave you with anything today, to think about data strengths as a toolkit, it is the comprehensive data setup that ensures the necessary input for the Google AI to achieve the best ROI for your business. So if I break it down even lighter, collect as much first-party data as possible because that acts as the fuel for the AI bidding to get the best results at the end of the day. As much first-party data available as possible to make more informed decisions to get the best bang for your buck. Why are we here now? I touched on it more holistically at the top of this call as well. But in today's privacy landscape, we're seeing a lot of signal loss across the industry. And predominantly what we're going to discuss today is third-party browsers like Safari, Firefox, and so on are restricting third-party cookies collecting data. I'm going to show some imagery in a moment, which will make it a little bit clearer as well in terms of how does that affect us and what does it mean in terms of when people visit our clients' websites. This is an illustration map purely just to demonstrate my point. None of these countries are losing data en masse, so don't be worried. Signal loss essentially means that our customers are stuck navigating an incomplete map. I was recently on holidays in France. I was going to Disneyland Paris. And I remember when I was driving to Disneyland Paris down, 6 lanes of traffic with multiple exits coming up, going, oh God, which one do I take? And luckily I had Google Maps with me, so I could actually see 200 meters, 150 meters, take a right turn. But I had a flashback of sitting in a car some, 20 years ago with my parents driving to Disneyland Paris and my mom holding a map in the front seat saying to my dad, like, I think it's another kilometer up the road and it should be exit 30. And how difficult it was back then when we had an incomplete picture. You had to fold the map over. Oh, maybe it cut out here. I don't have the second edition of the map. I don't know which exit to take now. But it just goes to show that coming back to our advertisers, if they don't understand the full picture, it's very hard to get where they want to go. So if we have data loss, it is ROI loss. If they don't understand how their conversions are coming in, both on the search and YouTube, they will underperform on their bidding and they will undervalue their media investment. Essentially, what does that mean? The ROI loss is revenue loss, both from working with agencies and clients, but also from a Google perspective as well. Clients will look at shifting their investment elsewhere, and rightly so. If they don't understand the full picture, you can only work with the information that you have. And that's where we want to partner with you today to make sure that you start going about building those building blocks. That's where data strength comes back in to start filling in those areas. So making sure we have the Google tag set up, enhanced conversions. I'll discuss it in a deeper look later, but we have the website and the offline side as well. It will depend on the type of customer that you're working with. And then Google Tag Gateway will actually benefit all clients. And then we'll have additional identifiers as well for future states. But why we should care about it, really, if we bring it down, boosting profitability for our customers. Clients can achieve up to 2 times more incremental revenue and a 1.5% cost efficiency by just bringing back the first party data, making the invisible visible again. Will also help to, if you think back to where I mentioned 61% of clients churned from their agencies because they dissatisfied value. If we can start helping them to understand what the true ROI is, they're going to be more than happy to stay and work with us, and they won't have to hop around between agencies. We can also then help to demonstrate expertise. We're happy to partner on creating case studies as well, showcasing thought leadership on this area as well. So we're happy to partner on case studies as well, and cultivating a team of experts, attending webinars like this with myself or regional events that we might have, or technical trainings as well. These are the kind of 4 pillars that we want to build on from the relationship today. So I'll pause there, Aniston, if there's any questions before we kind of jump into the deep dive of Google Tag Gateway.
No, I don't think so. You're doing great. I'm learning a lot myself.
Super, super. So this is going to be slightly more technical, but it's not going to be, we're going to break it down super simple. So if I can understand it, all of you can definitely understand it. So we'll jump into introducing Google Tag Gateway for advertisers. G2G is just another acronym that Google has, and G2G stands for Google Tag Gateway. The one-line analogy I like to use when I'm discussing it with either agencies or clients alike is that G2G is like a VPN for tags. So tomorrow I'm going to be flying to meet some customers across Europe, and I might want to use a VPN to watch my favorite TV show back home. The same way as it's going to sit between my laptop to adjust my location and allow me to watch Downton Abbey, I'm going to be super happy and be able to watch it while I'm sitting in the airport. What Google Tag Gateway does, it sits between your website and your Google Ads to load your script in a first-party instance to the external ecosystem instead of loading as a third-party instance, which we know is the crux of the issue. Browsers are blocking third-party scripts. We're going to load it in a first-party script in a privacy-compliant way. And coming back to Aniston, your question about consent mode, we are still going to respect consent as the number one element. If we do not have an accepted consent, We do not collect data. That is paramount.
Mhm.
So when we go through it here, I'll just use this for a visual demonstration. On the left, you see a website without Google Tag Gateway. And let's say I'm navigating to this from Safari or Firefox browser. I land on my favorite running shoe website and they don't have Google Tag Gateway enabled. I land on the website, I pick out my shoes and I abandon the cart for whatever reason. Because I came from Safari or Firefox, the Google Ads products will never know that because behind the scenes, unbeknownst to me, the Google Tag Manager script loaded. And when I came from Safari or Firefox, they scanned the website and said, oh, there's a third-party script there belonging to Google Tag Manager. Do not pass the data onto that for any reason at all. So John would have been classified as, let's say 15 to 20% loss due to coming from Safari or Firefox. Now you don't understand what John did on the website. If he abandoned the cart, you can't retarget him anymore, even if he gave consent. So that's the issue. That's where we're seeing the data loss occurring. Now, if tomorrow I go onto my favorite running shoe brand and I go to their website, I come from Safari or Firefox. When I land on the website, unbeknownst to me as the user, I go www.myfavoriterunningshoes.com, loads to Safari or Firefox. It goes, yes, tick, green box, first party script is loading. That will then, provided I give consent, that will pass the data on through the Google Tag Gateway servers and then pass it on to either ads or analytics, mitigating the issue that I mentioned at the top of having third-party scripts blocked. What the client is essentially going to do with their website is host their own first-party domain. So like I mentioned, it could be www.myfavoriterunningshoes.com. They will pass that data on, provided that it is given with consent. And that's what's going to help them mitigate the issues with third-party script loading. I'll pause there for potentially any questions, Aniston.
No, I don't think so. Yeah, no, keep going. That makes sense.
So what we've seen so far is advertisers who have adopted Google Tag Gateway on average observed 14% uplift in more conversions. That is making the invisible visible again. So everything that they could have tracked that they previously couldn't have done before, we've now made it visible, provided they've got consent. You'll see a little bit later on when I present a case study. This can vary depending on your customer's unique makeup of browser customer visitors. So some will have 10% traffic coming from third-party browsers, some will have 40%. It will very much vary. But once the gateway is in place and consent is given, if they have 30% traffic, they can reclaim 30% traffic. If they have 10% and they get the consent, they can reclaim it. There's no limitations on that, provided only that they get the consent.
I guess, sorry, yeah, one of my questions was, so say, how much time could someone historically go back and capture that data once they've implemented GTG? Maybe you'll go through that, but
Yeah, so it'll be from the moment that it's enabled going forward, essentially.
yeah, cool.
So in terms of I guess these are just more reinforcing points, but why you should care about Google Tag Gateway, you will see a performance uplift. Having more data available will just allow us to understand how campaigns are being influenced end to end and who are highest value users. We'll get a better predictor on return on ad spend from the data that we bring back. If we make 10% more data available or 20% more data available, our ROI or ROAS will get a lot better as well. Privacy by default, you have a lot of security and transparency around these solutions to make sure that the data is collected and processed as well. So depending on which implementation pathway you set up, there's different security controls as well. Simplified setup, I'll go through the implementation options in a moment. There's a whole host of different implementation options based on the tech stack that you're using as well. So you care about being in compliance, and so do we. We want to make sure you never have to worry about that. That's why I always like to stress that consent is still paramount. We are staying compliant using G2G. In terms of all of the different ways, again, I don't expect everyone to learn these off by heart as I go through them. There is going to be a lot of information with this afterwards as well that will be shared in the deck afterwards. So any of the implementation pathways I talk about here, The deck will have videos and links to how to set it up. So if anything is unclear, don't stress. You'll have time afterwards to go through the deck and go through each implementation option as well, from developer guides to video demonstrations as well. So the first bucket, this is one of the easiest implementation pathways, which is through CDNs, where we have turnkey integrations, Cloudflare, Akamai, and Fastly. So these are in-UI integrations. You log into either your Google Ads or the platform, and you connect it over the same way as I might want to connect my smartwatch. They range from about 5 to 10 steps when doing the implementation. If we don't have a turnkey integration with a solution, we have self-service implementation for other CDNs. You'll be able to follow this link here to a developer guide that will show you instructions on how to do it for areas like Amazon CloudFront. There will also be instructions how to do it for other CDNs as well. The third bucket you can do, I'll break it up into two parts. The third bucket is server-side GTM. So server-side Google Tag Manager. This is Google Tag Manager server to server. So essentially here, the first two buckets I spoke about, you can manage them out of your server-side Google Tag Manager through server to server. There's a third implementation option called tagging server or first-party script loading from the tagging configuration. So if you have heard from any of your setups or clients that are using server-side GTM already, a common misconception in the market is that we have SGTM. We do not need G2G on top of it. That is technically true, but more than likely false. And I'll explain why. Server-side GTM has had first-party script loading for the last 4 years, give or take. But just because you set up server-side GTM did not mean you got a first-party script loading by default. You had to create that custom domain where I showed myfavoriterunningshoes.com. That is a very direct step that they would have had to have taken. So if we at Google reach out to you to say that there's still headroom addressable here, it means that there's an opportunity there. It means we're still seeing the data loading in a third-party instance. And just because you have SGTM doesn't mean you're loading in a first-party instance. I'll show a flow chart in a moment, which will make it a little bit clearer. But that was a common misconception. People assumed that if they had SGTM, they didn't need G2G. They actually work in tandem together. It's just it's a rebranding of a feature that already pre-existed, the terminology Google Tag Gateway. Then we have content management systems, CMSs. We have a turnkey integration with Webflow. It's a one-click enablement. And we also have more coming online as well. We're rolling out Duda as well. That's in about a 40% rollout phase. But as that comes out, we will share that with the teams as well. Yes, I can hear you again now.
Well, I know that you mentioned the first option was kind of like the easiest, most, standard for maybe marketing agency, social teams that are looking at this a little overwhelmed. What option would you say is kind of your recommendation?
I would say the first bucket, literally Cloudflare, is one of the highest penetrations across the market in terms of what clients have already in their tech stack.
Right.
But we can share around the lead list as well, just highlighting the top opportunities. But the first bucket, the in-UI integration, is going to be the lightest lift without the need of necessarily going to developer teams and so on.
Yeah.
While the second and the third bucket are more geared towards developers. For a developer, it's very straightforward to do. It's not that difficult. It won't take them that long. But in saying that, if we're talking about marketing teams and so on, the first bucket and the fourth bucket are going to be the fastest deployment where we can get on a call and implement it in less than 15 minutes.
Yeah, cool. Good to know.
Then just a cheat sheet as well, if anyone wants a recap of content delivery networks, CMSs, or server-side Google Tag Manager, just the description. So this will all be available to you afterwards as well. So I'll recap here again, just to make it a little bit clearer on the common misconception that if we have server-side GTM, we don't need G2G. So how a typical setup works, it kind of goes back to the infographic I showed earlier. Here on the left, we have the website. Google tag is loading, it loads as a third-party tag. That's essentially what's happening. The external browsers don't allow the data to be passed on. So when we move through it, if we set up server-side GTM, it will still the Google tag will still load on the website as a third party, even if we have SGTM set up, unless we take the derived action of loading here. You can see advertiser.com/metrics, or my example was myfavoriterunningshoes.com. If we make sure that myfavoriterunningshoes.com is loading when the website loads, then the external ecosystem sees a first party tag, it's got consent, let's pass the data on to the Google Ads products, either ads, search, or analytics. So if you're using server-side GTM, you do not by default have first-party script loading or G2G as it is known. So that is a really important component to check. Make sure that we're loading the custom domain advertiser.com/metrics instead of the Google tag. That is what's going to allow them capture as much first-party data as possible in a privacy compliant way. So in terms of like the benefits, we're going to see increased measure conversions and also GA hits. We're also going to see increased conversion modeling, improved conversion modeling, not increased, improved conversion modeling. We'll also see improved measurement of returning users and overall better data security as well if they're using server-side GTM, just on how they set it up, how they control the data flow as well. Again, as I mentioned, I won't spend a lot of time on these, just purely explain what you're looking at here. Each one on the left is going to explain which implementation path you're going after. There's going to be a link out to a developer guide or a Google Ads Help Center. And then there's going to be typically a video here as well, showcasing how to do the implementation as well. So as we go through, if we talk about the CDNs, you're going to see the Cloudflare one, as I mentioned. This is bucket one, the lightest lift. We're going to see Akamai. We're going to see Google Cloud and Fastly. These are going to be some of the lightest lift ones. And as I mentioned, you'll see the articles here on how to set up and just some infographics here as well. We'll move into CMS. I have only included Webflow at the moment because that's fully launched. I didn't want to include Duda yet until it is at full capacity as well, just in case not all of your clientele are there yet. So you'll have these afterwards as well. Oh, it is there, launched at 10%. So once that is fully launched, you will get an update just to say that everybody is eligible as well. But again, same structure, help center article with all of the instructions, how to set it up, and just an infographic as well to walk you through it. So in terms of the success stories, I'm going to go through one success story and then I'll leave the other two behind for you to read after. If there's any questions you have on success stories or looking for any specific examples, you can reach out to Aniston and myself to get any nuanced examples that you want as well, if we have them to provide. So I'm going to use an example here. So Next Online Insurance Company, they had a challenge where a large cohort of customers, insurance customers, were coming to their website from Safari, anywhere between 15 to 30% on a given day. They had server-side GTM already set up, and they wanted to integrate Google Tag Gateway to help unlock that invisible traffic and make it visible again. So they partnered with their Google team. They set up the tagging server and they configured it so that it would load in a first-party instance with their own custom domain. So the external ecosystem now saw a first-party tag loading, received the consent. They saw anywhere between 15 to 30% of recovered conversions on any given day based on traffic volumes and spikes. And they also saw 1.5 to 2.5% increase in tracking over standard client-side tracking. So that would predominantly pertain to server-side versus client-side tracking as well. There's some other case studies as well, which you can go through just from a G2G perspective, which goes through different implementation pathways as well as a follow-up. So here you can see a Cloudflare one, but as mentioned, the deck will be shared with you afterwards, so you can go through these in greater detail. If you are working on deploying Google Tag Gateway, there's a very simple way to check it. You can go into the Google Ads UI And on the left-hand column, you can go to Tools, and then under the Google tag, you can actually see the Google Tag Manager setup. And then you can go through Google Tag Gateway, and you will see a complete or an incomplete. You might see 10 URLs showing up under the tracker, but only 2 of them might be relevant. It will also pick up irrelevant domains. These could be testing domains, and there's a feature where you can exclude them. So it's kind of like a bell mechanism. It just alerts. It's an alert mechanism that allows us to know how many of our URLs are loading in a first-party instance and how many are not. So this is a really nice way. It's very easy to use. You go into Google you go into Google Ads, into Tools, Data Manager, and then you can see the Google Tag script. Go in there and you'll see Google Tag Gateway. It's very easy to use and it's very, very nice. It's a quick way to ensure that you've set it up correctly. So before I jump into enhanced conversions for leads, any additional questions?
I guess you'll probably go into kind of more of the metrics to, look at besides the conversions. I don't know if there's any other, as advertisers, as they implement GTD, is there maybe other metrics that they can look at to really view and see that improvement?
So in terms of that, we are working on value diagnostics as well. So we're looking at bringing that into the UI. So if anybody has worked with like enhanced conversions in the past, you would have known that there's a diagnostics tool, but also an uplift tool to tell you how much uplift you have received post implementation. Right now, we have it with studies in house. So we're doing causal impact studies, and we're slowly rolling these out as well. But we are looking to make this more scalable and actually bring it directly into the UI, so you don't have to rely on your Google account team to run a research on that as well. But from everything that I'm seeing so far from the testing has been very positive results for a lot of customers. But in terms of, I guess, Aniston, to answer your question, in a scaled approach, we don't have it yet externalized. That is on the roadmap to come, and we are working on studies at the moment and see if we can replicate it as well externally.
Cool.
Perfect. So we'll jump into enhanced conversions for leads. This is not going to necessarily be a net new solution for probably most people on the call. Some might, but if you've been working with Google for the past while, you will have come across enhanced conversions, probably for web. But we also, web in its name is geared towards the website, and for leads is geared towards the offline environment. So sorry, skip forward. Enhanced conversions as a whole, we want to make sure that we provide as much conversion data as possible to feed the AI models. I'm going to sound a little bit like a parrot here, but it's really about making as much, having as many data sources, providing us with as much durable first party data as possible. And that's what EC is really about, making sure that we provide as much durable data as possible. So if we think about enhanced conversions for leads, I thought the infographics would load, but they haven't. I'll explain it in a moment. I'll just jump forward to, if you don't mind, and then I'll come back to the security one. If you think of which customers would benefit from ECL, so what does ECL really do? Enhanced conversions for leads. It measures offline customer data and stitches it back with the online Google Ads campaign data. So if you think of online insurance brokers, banks, car dealerships, and so on, anybody that has a presence online and has a derived action that sends them offline, typically to a CRM system or a call center, and the sale happens offline. This would be, if we take an example of home insurance, Aniston and myself go to a website, we become an engaged visitor for home insurance. Aniston gets a quote, fills out the lead, and gets a quote 2 days later. John fills out the same lead form and gets a quote 2 days later. What's happening in Google Ads when it's still on the online component? Aniston will typically be awarded a nominal value for creating a lead of, let's say, 50, and John is created for the same lead at 50. But that's not really their true value. It's a nominal value to satisfy that the lead has been generated, and we want to bid on people that are creating leads. However, when we move it to the offline environment, goes into a CRM system, we get a call back. Aniston gets a call. Hi, we're going to offer you home insurance for this year at $500. Would you like to take the premium? Nope, too steep. I got it for 400 somewhere else. Closed, lost deal. Then John gets the same phone call. He gets offered 450. Now, closes the deal, won. What typically happens? It stays in a CRM system. And then the Google Ads campaigns are still bidding on them equally at 50 euros each. When in reality, or sorry, $50 each, when in reality, that Aniston is technically at this next 12-month period probably worth zero to them, and John is worth 450. If we stitch that data back online, we suddenly become more informed. Again, feed the AI with as much first party data as possible to find either cross sell opportunities. Let's sell John car insurance. Let's sell John home insurance. Or maybe let's not target him for 12 months. And then maybe we store that information and we go, coming up to about 10 months, let's retarget again because there was interest there as well. So these are the kind of creative ways, but these are typically where we're seeing customers that have an online and offline. The biggest break in their data is they're not creating that complete customer view. And that's really what we want to create.
So I guess this would go also hand in hand with the customer match, correct? So you would able to, yeah, you can probably explain it better, but
Fantastic. Fantastic. You should say that because that's actually one of the analogies I use when looking at my customer profiles. So ECL, obviously, it's going to work on uploading offline data. If your customers are using customer match already, which is required to upload PII information to create audiences in a secure manner, they're sign that off. I had this recently where a client was like, we don't want to adopt ECL, we don't feel safe, the privacy, the PII information. I was like, okay, but you use customer match and it's more or less the same mechanism that is working to upload the data. Just the output is different. One, customer match is working on audiences. For ECL, we're increasing conversion count. And they were like, oh, would you come and explain that to our legal team? And we're like, yeah, sure. And then that helps to win it over. So it's a useful thing. If you have customer match clients, then ECL is a quick win as well. In terms of, I guess, the performance drivers, with ECL, we're seeing customers achieve 10% higher measured conversions than standard offline conversion import, 8% on search, and 22% on YouTube. So there's two components I want to stress here. There's net new ECL pitches. These are people who have not done, or customers who have not done any offline conversion import. And then there is customers who do some offline conversion import using a solution called standard offline conversion import. They upload data to OCI, would be the terminology if you have heard it, OCI, and they are using Gclid. Why does ECL differ, and why am I telling you to switch to ECL if they use OCI? OCI uses Gclid. ECL is about making a more durable, robust foundational measurement solution. Why is ECL better than OCI? It works on what I like to call two-factor authentication. It uses Gclid and it uses the PII information. So if either one of them fail, we've got a continuous identifier in place to create that durability in measurement. So while OCI isn't broken, it's not going away. It's just if there's a better solution that can provide two identifiers to keep continuity and better measurement, it makes a lot of sense. And as you can see here from the numbers, it provides better uplift in conversions. More first party data means more informed decisions. Perfect. The different ways to implement enhanced conversions for leads, or EC4L, another acronym, you might say ECL as well. Enhanced conversions for leads, what we need to do is we need to set up the tag to ensure that it's collecting the data correctly. So we can do that via the Google Ads UI to set up the global site tag, or via Tag Manager. In terms of ingesting the PII information, the most common and most popular method is the Google Ads Data Manager, where we have turnkey integrations with CRM systems, but we also have methods like Google Ads Data Manager file as well. So this would be one of the most straightforward ways to ingest the data. And again, all of that data is completely encrypted. I know we use the terminology PII, but That is just the umbrella term for it. When the data is loaded into the system, only the client has access. By the time it reaches Google, it is encrypted. We do not have access into any PII information. It is encrypted by SHA-256, and in the documentation, you'll find more information around the security as well. I'll close here on ECL with a case study. EPOS now, they're an online point of sale terminal system, and they had one of the probably nicest challenges where they had too many leads. They had so much volume coming in, but their qualified leads, they were spending too much time getting to the right prospects to turn over. So what they did was they worked with the Google team. They created a marketing qualified lead score and tiered their systems on which leads they wanted to pursue. And they used ECL then to bring that data back in and have it in the system. Then their sales teams were able to prioritize and target the top opportunities. As a result of that, they became more efficient. They saw a 17% increase in customers and a 7% decrease in cost per customer. So just by creating that tiering, they weren't inefficient. They didn't lose it due to maybe taking 2 weeks to get back to a potential prospect. So it really helps. Now, this is a very advanced case where you would have to create a marketing qualified lead score and so on, but it just shows the potential. Obviously, you can still ingest and get so much more first party data just by setting up enhanced conversions for leads and using that kind of two-factor authentication that I like to call of GCLID and PII information. So with that, I'll pause here if there's any questions on enhanced conversions for leads.
No, I don't think so.
Clear? Super. Perfect. So just in terms of kind of like next actions after today, start discussing G2G with your teams, also enhanced conversions for leads. You can discuss with Aniston and Helena, the Google rep as well. We have technical trainings as well. So I understand not everyone here is going to be doing the implementation, and we completely understand that. You're not going to have log into their Cloudflare access and so on. But we want to make sure that you are well educated and well equipped to also walk the clients through it as well, and to make sure, or the developers, and just explain it to them as well. So it is designed in such a way that it's about upskilling. So we have technical trainings, but they're about upskilling so that you can also engage with us as well. The final piece, please do engage with our webinars, our regional events. I myself am happy to come and do these sessions whenever is needed. So please do attend them, ask any questions. The harder, the better. We're more than happy to answer them.
Amazing. Thank you, John.
My pleasure.
I wanted to take a second to just, talk about the bridge of how GTG can, affect Metricool users. Of obviously advertisers, there's Google Ads available within Metricool, and as we just talked about, just capturing that lost data. If you have enhanced data with GTG, then you're going to have advanced data with Metricool. So I think it's really cool that our platforms are able to work together in that way. I think the goal amongst all advertisers, marketers, right, is to have the best first party data that we can. And I think it's fascinating that we're seeing, these solutions that really do give marketers, advertisers, agencies the best data and, analytics and measurement that they can provide. So really, thank you for joining. Thank you for the insights. And yeah, of course, if anyone has any questions, feel free to reach out to either of us. This will live on our YouTube channel, also on LinkedIn, but feel free to reach out to us either those platforms or via email. And yeah, thank you again, John.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.
Okay, we will see you all next time. In case there's not any more questions, feel free to also leave them like on the comments or externally. And we'll see you all next time.